Okay, so we have made it to the final part of our series here, and we're going to now style our components using Sass. So if you remember back in the first video when we were installing our dependencies, an additional package that we wanted to include was Node-Sass, and that allows us to switch from using CSS over to Sass. With the CRA tool, it makes it a lot easier for developers to make that transition. And it's just as simple as once you install that dependency, just renaming your files to SCSS. It's just that simple. And there you go. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to remove this default SCSS or styling code. And what we're going to do is insert some styling of our own. But first, we're going to import some dependencies that we will need. First one being fonts, which will allow us to use the custom fonts that are used in the design. And the second one is going to be colors, which allows us to reference a file that essentially creates variables. And we go through the design and we create a list of variables and assign them X values for the various colors throughout our application. So this will be very useful for us. And let's go ahead and set the font family for our application. We're going to use Benton. Right. Now let's look at the container of our application itself. So what we can do is we can set the max width of our application to 355 pixels. And let's give it actually a little bit of a margin. So let's do 16 pixels from top and bottom, and auto for left and right so we can center it. And let's actually add a border around this, because right now we're like against a white background, so it looks like this application floating in space. And even though this design doesn't specifically give us a border, we'll go ahead and create one. And we have one up here in our variables, and we'll use the container border variable for this. So let's just say it's going to be 1 pixel solid, and it's going to be that color. And I believe if you look at the container, it has a border radius of 6 pixels. So let's go ahead and add the border radius of 6 pixels. All right. Not bad, not bad. Looks like we're able to get that. Cool. One thing I wanted to mention as well. So actually I went back and I did a little bit of refactoring. So I've created an additional component, and it's called the placeholder image. And this allows us to toggle in between images on click. I wanted to simulate essentially the expanded view and the collapsed view of the application for that placeholder content. So what I've done is I've created a placeholder image component, and whenever you click on that, you can toggle between what's the default image and what is the expanded version of that image. This is using the functional component style of React, and more specifically the hooks for React. So in this case, we're going to be using useState. So anytime someone updates or clicks on the placeholder image, we're going to invoke the callback function to update our initial state, local state variable of a shown image. And to see an example of that, we can go into our buzz component. And from there, you see that we're using source 1, which is our default image, and source 2, which is the expanded image. So in the UI, if you guys click on it, you can see the expanded version. For the projections, we did a little bit different since I'm actually not using two image versions. I'm actually using an image in conjunction with actual React code, and in this case we're using D3. So whenever we click show more and show less, it's actually updating the local state for our projections component, and it's going to either show or hide the PDF graph along with the trends data. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to throw those in there so we can get as close to the actual implementation as we can in context of the time that we have here. So, all right, cool. So now we have our border for the application. We've centered it. It's moved over from being all the way to the left to being centered using the margin auto. I want to make this link look a little bit more like the one for the buzz. So I think, we could probably make that a global style as well. So let's just go ahead and I've named it show more link. That one, margin is going to be 0 at the top, 0 on the right. We're going to have 10 pixels of space at the bottom, and 0 on the left-hand side. So it starts at the top and goes clockwise. And then we're going to align the text to be centered. And we're going to give it a color of, let's open up our variable. And this is going to be FF blue. All right. That way I don't have to remember the hex color. All right, let us see what that looks like. Nice. Okay, so it's centered. It's starting to look a little bit more like we have in the placeholder image. All right, it's not bad, but I still kind of need some separation between this drop down and the projections container, and we're going to have to apply a little bit more styling to that. So let's go ahead and create a file for projections. And let's see if we can update that guy. Actually, before we even make any edits to this file, let's include it into our global SCSS file. So that way it is reflected in the browser. And we'll go ahead and move this guy over here. And let's open up our projections.js. So we have a class name, and our class name for the projections container or component is component container. Oops, container. And specifically for projections. So we're going to use the nested capabilities of Sass. So now for that one, we want to actually add a border also based upon the design. And these borders DC, which we actually have stored in our colors. So DC is border color. So 1 pixel solid and border color. I'm going to give this guy 0 padding on the top and bottom, but we're going to give about 18 pixels on the left and the right. Radius also of 6 pixels, just like our app container. And let's hide any kind of overflow just in case. Okay. Let's centering itself, and you can still create some separation here. Okay. Awesome. So I know for the top half of the projections container for the boom and bust, we're using placeholder image as well. So we should probably create a file for placeholder, a style file for that, and then do not forget to include that. Awesome. And let us actually open up our placeholder. Wow. And let's look at our placeholder class name. So here we can say placeholder container. Say image. Let's give it a width of 325 pixels. Start there. Margin is 16, top and bottom, and center them. Let's see how that kind of looks. Okay, nice, nice. So we are both 325, so it matches the image here. These guys match each other. And they're now both centered. We have a little bit of separation here, so it's not bad. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Let's actually create one for the compare button. Now actually, the compare button for the demo purposes is not going to have much functionality, so we're going to, in this case, include it in a global file. So let's go to our compare button. This name is button. And let's say margin is going to be 10 pixels to the top and bottom, and center it horizontally. Say display block. Right there. Let's just make sure. Yep, we are using that. Last name. Compare button, and we can always inspect to see if that is the case. So it's not picking up on those changes. Oh. Probably actually I could apply that to the image inside there, because the width of this container itself is 100%. And that should be oh, haha. So it says class num, should be class name, a little typo there. And now we should actually see it. Cool. Alright, it does what it's supposed to do. So not bad, not looking shabby at all. Let's go ahead and expand. Okay, we're going to need to style that guy up a little bit, but I'm liking how the boom and bust is showing up. So for the trends, you probably want to add a little bit of padding to the bottom of the trends component. Let's look inside the trends. Actually, we could probably just add some margin at the top of the show more button. Show more. So let's say top is going to be 10. Alright, so let's go into actually here. So since both top and bottom are 10, now we can just get away with doing something like this. Gives us a little bit more room. outside our projection. So we have a class associated with this, which is placeholder content and trend. I can say, let's do a little test here. Margin, bottom, let's give that 10 pixels. Give me a little bit of space. Let's do 15 pixels. So inside of our projections file, now we can have another row for n.trends. We can say margin, bottom is going to be 15 pixels. And the guy should reflect in the browser, so let's do a refresh. Make sure that is the case. Trends, I say n.trend. Oh, excuse me. This is actually not for this guy, it's actually for the trends. Placeholder. Container, let's say this guy here. Should give me a little bit more, which it does. Awesome. Cool, so now that guy is getting picked up. The last thing we need to do before this is done is we need to style this graph. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments. So for SVG text, we want the fill to be black, and let's fit football black. It's a specific color that they're using in the design. Font family is going to be Benton. Let's see how that flex. Okay, so these guys have changed now. Let's look about changing the grid lines. Make sure that also matches up with the design. Order, color. Let's look at the task. Name, both X and Y. Let's say stroke. It's none. And then the axis, X. Specifically the x-axis. So that's that we can give the stroke probably the border color as well, just to match what we have here. Border color being used there. And the line with a stroke is none. So let's do refresh. And look at our application. Okay, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Alright, so now we have gone through a series where we've learned about React, the CRA tool that helps developers bootstrap a lot of their code. We've used tools to also bootstrap the creation of components using the Create React component folder. And we've talked about integration with data visualization libraries such as D3. And now we've styled our components. So this wraps up our series. If there's any questions or comments on that, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you.